Have you ever noticed something kind of interesting about how we think of India? I mean, you hear India and you think tradition, right?
Strong morals.
Exactly. And those ideas are definitely there, but then, you dig a little deeper and you run into all this ancient stuff, texts, art, and wow.
It's like, whoa, where did this come from?
It is. It's like a whole different side, really open about sensuality, even celebrating it.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Is India really the super conservative culture, or is there a bigger picture, something we're maybe missing?
I think that's exactly what's so fascinating about this deep dive we're about to jump into.
Okay.
We've got this conversation between Raj and Amit, and they are really wrestling with this.
Oh, wow.
This whole contradiction,
Yeah.
And what's great is they bring in both the history and what's happening today with morality and, what we see as vulgar in India. So it's really insightful.
So basically what we want to do today is help you understand, how can these two things exist together?
Right.
Strong morals, but also this acceptance of the sensual.
It's like a paradox, right?
It is. It doesn't seem like they should go together, but they clearly do somehow.
They do.
So how has this all evolved over time?
Right.
What happened along the way?
Yeah, what shaped it?
We want to get past the simple labels,
Yeah, just like conservative or not.
Exactly.
There's so much more to it.
So much more nuance to Indian culture.
Absolutely.
Okay, so right off the bat, Raj jumps into this contradiction.
He does.
He talks about this strong moral framework, the one everyone always brings up.
Yeah.
Then he's like, but wait a minute, what about all this other stuff?
Right.
Like this very obvious sensual side from India's past.
Yeah, and I think what really hits home for him is he brings up the Kama Sutra.
Oh, yeah, that's a good example.
I mean, it's known worldwide, right?
It is.
And it comes from ancient India.
Yeah.
And it's pretty open about intimacy and pleasure.
Uh-huh.
Like it's a natural part of life.
Right.
But then you look at India today.
Yeah.
And people freak out about a kiss in a movie.
It's true.
So how did we get from there to here?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is. It is.
It really makes you think about that whole journey.
Yeah.
Like, how could these two totally different viewpoints come from the same culture?
Right.
It's almost like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And Amin actually offers a really interesting explanation for this.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So he's like, let's look at the big picture, the history.
Okay.
And he thinks British colonialism played a huge role.
Ah, interesting.
Because with the British came Victorian morality.
Oh, right. Very uptight.
Super uptight. So Amit's point is that before the British, India was way more open. He points to tons of evidence.
Like what?
Ancient texts, sculptures, even literature.
Wow.
All showing this acceptance of human desires.
So it's like they impose this new set of rules.
Exactly. It's like they took their morality and kind of forced it on India.
Wow.
It's like putting a filter on top of an existing culture.
And then to make things even more complicated, we have globalization now.
Oh, yeah. That throws into the wrench in things.
Right, because now you've got this mix of holding on to traditional values, but also being exposed to all these more liberal ideas.
Right.
From all over the world.
It's like this push and pull, you know?
I do, yeah.
It's a real tension.
And it makes you wonder, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Like, how much is too much?
Right.
And Raj brings up this point about, is it real art?
Yeah.
Or is it just obscenity?
Yeah, where's the line?
Especially today with all the media we consume.
So much content out there.
It's everywhere. Movies, songs, it's like...
It's hard to know what's what.
It is blurry, isn't it?
It is, and it's interesting because Amit points out that vulgarity isn't this universal thing.
Like what's vulgar to one person isn't to another.
Exactly. He gives this great example about partial nudity.
Okay.
He's like, in some tribal communities, it's totally normal.
Yeah.
But in a city in India, people might be really offended.
That's so true.
It's all about context.
And your own background, right?
Absolutely.
Like what you grew up with.
It shapes how you see things.
It totally does.
Yeah.
But then Raj is like, but what about when creators are just being provocative?
Oh, yeah, like pushing buttons on purpose?
Exactly. Like, is that still art if they're just trying to be shocking?
Just to grab attention?
Yeah, just to get people talking.
It's a good question.
It is.
And Amit gets that.
Okay.
But he comes back with this idea of choice.
Okay, like people can choose what they watch.
Exactly. He's like, people have the power to decide
Okay.
what they consume.
So if you think it's vulgar,
Yeah.
don't watch it.
Don't listen.
Yeah, change the channel.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
You have the control.
But then Raj brings up something that I think worries a lot of people, especially parents.
Okay.
He's worried about the impact on young people.
Oh, yeah, like kids seeing too much vulgarity.
And maybe it kind of desensitizes them.
Right, or they start thinking it's normal.
Yeah, and that could lead to problems down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
So what does Amit say to that?
Okay, so this is interesting.
Okay.
Amit agrees it's a valid concern, but he doesn't jump to, let's ban everything.
Oh, really?
He's more about education.
Ah, okay.
Like teaching kids to think critically.
So they can make good decisions for themselves.
Exactly. So he's putting the responsibility on families, on teachers, on society to help young people understand these issues.
Instead of just shielding them from everything.
Right, because that doesn't really work in the long run.
No, it doesn't.
You got to give them the tools.
It's like empowering them.
Right, exactly.
To make informed choices.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's about giving them the power.
Yeah.
To navigate the world.
And this kind of leads to the idea that culture isn't fixed.
It's always changing.
Right. It evolves.
It's dynamic.
And both Raj and Amit seem to be on board with that.
They agree on that.
But Amit makes this really important distinction.
Oh, tell me about it.
He talks about intelligent evolution.
I like that phrase.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
And what he means is,
yeah,
we shouldn't just copy other cultures.
Right, like blindly following trends.
Or just cling to tradition for tradition's sake.
Yeah, just because that's how it's always been done.
Right, it has to be more thoughtful.
Absolutely.
Respecting heritage, but also moving forward.
Finding that balance.
So it's not just change for change's sake.
No, it's got to be smart change.
Intelligent evolution.
That's it.
And in the end, they both seem to agree that awareness is key.
More than censorship.
Like trying to ban things.
It's about understanding.
Yeah, and being informed.
Exactly.
And I love this image that Amit uses at the end.
What's that?
He talks about being a bridge between tradition and modernity.
Oh, yeah, that's powerful.
Instead of seeing them as being opposed.
Like they can work together.
It's like finding a way for them to coexist.
I think that's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah, and it gives us a path forward.
Yeah, a way to approach these conversations.
Absolutely.
Which can be tricky.
They can be.
Yeah.
Okay, so to recap for you, our listener.
Yes.
We've spent this time with Raj and Amit.
Yeah.
Looking at how ideas about morality and sensuality have shifted.
Over time in India.
Yes, and how history has played a role in that.
Yeah, like colonialism and now globalization.
Right, and we talked about how the idea of what's vulgar, it's different for everyone.
And it changes depending on the context.
It does, and of course there's that debate about freedom of expression.
Versus, is it just offensive?
But I think the biggest takeaway here is that
Yeah.
Indian culture is constantly evolving.
It's not stuck.
And we have to be mindful of that.
Absolutely.
It's about education and awareness.
Not about shutting things down.
Exactly. It's about finding that intelligent evolution.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, we wanted to leave you with something to think about.
Oh, I like this part.
So in this globalized world we live in,
Yeah, where everything's connected.
how do we deal with changing ideas of morality?
Yeah, like what's considered right and wrong.
And especially those ideas about what's vulgar.
Yeah, because that seems to be shifting all the time.
But at the same time, how do we still hold on to our own cultural heritage?
How do we respect tradition?
It's a tough balance, right?
It is. It is.
It's a really interesting question to think about.
It is, and it's something that impacts all of us.
It really does.
In ways we may not even realize.
Yeah, food for thought, right?
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us.
It was a great conversation.
Until next time.
See you then.